Question 1. During the evaluation of a medical dictation concerning a patient's diagnosis, the registered professional reporter encounters the physician dictating a complex neurological condition using highly technical terminology. The reporter is familiar with some of the terms, but is unsure of the precise spelling of several key diagnostic phrases. What is the most appropriate course of action for the RPR to ensure regulatory compliance and professional integrity? Option A. Transcribe the terms phonetically as accurately as possible, noting any uncertainty for potential later review, and continue with the dictation. Option B. Omit the complex medical terminology and transcribe only the general symptoms described by the physician. Option C. Substitute the technical terms with more common, understandable medical equivalents to ensure clarity for a broader audience. Option D. Pause the dictation to ask the physician for clarification on the spelling of the medical terms. Correct answer is A. Transcribe the terms phonetically as accurately as possible, noting any uncertainty for potential later review, and continue with the dictation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the registered professional reporter, RPR, to accurately and impartially transcribe sensitive medical information while adhering to strict privacy regulations. The RPR must understand the nuances of medical terminology and the potential implications of misinterpreting or misrepresenting a diagnosis, especially when dealing with conditions that carry significant social or personal stigma. The challenge lies in maintaining absolute neutrality and accuracy without injecting personal bias or making assumptions about the patient's condition or the implications of the medical report. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes verbatim transcription and adherence to established reporting standards. By focusing solely on the spoken word and ensuring the accuracy of medical terms, the RPR upholds the integrity of the record. This aligns with the ethical obligations of an RPR to provide an unbiased and faithful representation of the proceedings or dictated material. Regulatory frameworks for RPRs emphasize accuracy, completeness, and impartiality, ensuring that the official record is a true reflection of what was said, without interpretation or alteration. This approach minimizes the risk of introducing errors or misinterpretations that could have serious consequences for the patient or legal proceedings. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves attempting to clarify or interpret the physician's statements regarding the patient's condition. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it moves beyond verbatim transcription into interpretation, which is outside the RPR's scope of practice. RPRs are not medical professionals and should not attempt to diagnose or explain medical conditions. Such actions could lead to misrepresentation of the medical record and potential harm to the patient. Another incorrect approach is to omit or paraphrase sections of the medical dictation that are perceived as sensitive or potentially embarrassing. This is a direct violation of the RPR's duty to provide a complete and accurate record. Omitting information, even with good intentions, compromises the integrity of the transcript and can have legal ramifications. Regulatory guidelines mandate that all spoken words be transcribed, unless specifically instructed otherwise by a court or authorized party, and even then, such omissions must be clearly noted. A third incorrect approach is to use generic or simplified medical terms when more specific terminology was dictated. This compromises accuracy and completeness. The RPR's role is to capture the exact language used by the medical professional, including precise medical terminology. Substituting less precise terms can lead to a loss of critical diagnostic information and misrepresentation of the physician's findings, violating the core principle of verbatim reporting. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by strictly adhering to the principle of verbatim transcription. This involves active listening, accurate phonetic spelling, and a thorough understanding of the required formatting and style guides. When encountering unfamiliar medical terms, the RPR should utilize their professional judgment to spell them phonetically as accurately as possible and flag them for potential review or clarification if the context allows, and if it does not compromise the flow of the dictation. The RPR's primary responsibility is to create an accurate and complete record of the spoken word, not to interpret or edit the content. This decision-making process is guided by the RPR's code of ethics and regulatory requirements for accuracy and impartiality. Question 2. Governance review demonstrates that a client has requested a brief outline of a deposition, specifically asking that less important or repetitive sections be summarized or omitted entirely to save time and focus on key takeaways. The Registered Professional Reporter (RPR) is concerned that defining less important or repetitive is subjective and could lead to a record that does not fully reflect the proceedings. What is the most ethically sound and professionally appropriate course of action for the RPR? Option A. Create an outline that includes all spoken words, but structures the information to emphasize certain points and de-emphasize others, presenting it as a neutral summary. Option B. Agree to the client's request and create an outline that omits sections deemed less important or repetitive by the client, ensuring the outline is clearly marked as a summary. Option C. Refuse to provide any form of summary or outline, stating that only a verbatim transcript is available and that the client must extract their own key points. Option D. Explain to the client that the RPR's professional obligation is to provide a verbatim transcript of the entire deposition and offer to create a separate, clearly labeled summary of key points derived from the verbatim record, while emphasizing that the official record remains the full transcript. The correct answer is D. Explain to the client that the RPR's professional obligation is to provide a verbatim transcript of the entire deposition and offer to create a separate, clearly labeled summary of key points derived from the verbatim record, while emphasizing that the official record remains the full transcript. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the inherent conflict between the client's desire for a concise summary and the reporter's ethical obligation to provide an accurate and complete record. The RPR must balance client satisfaction with the integrity of the verbatim record, a core tenet of the profession. The request for an outline that omits potentially contentious points creates a direct ethical dilemma, as it could lead to a misrepresentation of the proceedings. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach, which involves explaining the limitations of an outline and offering to provide a verbatim transcript with a separate, clearly labeled summary of key points, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the ethical canons of the National Court Reporters Association, (NCRA), which emphasize accuracy, impartiality, and the preservation of the verbatim record. By offering a verbatim transcript, the RPR fulfills their primary duty. By proposing a separate summary, they address the client's need for conciseness without compromising the integrity of the official record. This approach demonstrates professionalism, transparency, and a commitment to ethical standards. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that agrees to create an outline that omits specific details requested by the client is professionally unacceptable. This would violate the RPR's duty to produce an accurate and complete record. It could lead to a misrepresentation of the proceedings, potentially impacting legal outcomes or future discussions. This action would be a direct breach of ethical obligations to maintain the integrity of the record and could be seen as aiding in the distortion of facts. Another unacceptable approach would be to refuse to provide any summary or outline, stating only that a verbatim transcript is available. While technically accurate, this approach lacks client service and professional courtesy. It fails to acknowledge the client's expressed need for a more digestible format, potentially damaging the client relationship. While not an ethical breach in terms of record integrity, it falls short of best professional practice in client interaction and service. Finally, an approach that creates an outline and presents it as a complete representation of the proceedings, even if it includes all spoken words but is structured to downplay certain aspects, is also ethically problematic. This is a subtle form of misrepresentation. The RPR's role is to record what is said, not to interpret or frame it in a way that favors one party or outcome, even if not explicitly instructed to omit information. Professional reasoning. When faced with a request that could compromise the integrity of the record, an RPR should first understand the client's underlying need. Then, they should clearly articulate their professional obligations and limitations. The RPR should offer solutions that meet the client's needs while upholding ethical standards. This involves open communication, transparency about what can and cannot be done ethically, and offering alternative, compliant services. The decision-making process should prioritize the preservation of the verbatim record and adherence to professional codes of conduct. Question 3. The control framework reveals that during a deposition, a deponent provides testimony that is rambling and contains numerous interjections and hesitations. The attorneys are actively engaged, with frequent objections and sidebar discussions. Which approach best upholds the professional and legal obligations of a registered professional reporter in this scenario? Option A. Intervene to guide the deponent towards clearer and more direct answers to improve the readability of the transcript. Option B. Summarize the deponent's testimony to present a more coherent and concise narrative, omitting minor interjections and hesitations. Option C. Focus on transcribing only the core substance of the deponent's answers, disregarding objections and sidebar discussions as extraneous to the testimony itself. Option D. Transcribe the testimony verbatim, including all interjections, hesitations, and sidebar discussions, accurately noting each objection and ruling as it occurs. The correct answer is D. Transcribe the testimony verbatim, including all interjections, hesitations, and sidebar discussions, accurately noting each objection and ruling as it occurs. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in legal proceedings where a court reporter must accurately and impartially transcribe sensitive and potentially contentious testimony during a deposition. The reporter's role is critical in preserving the integrity of the record, which will be used in subsequent legal procedures, including potential motions and trials. The challenge lies in maintaining strict neutrality, ensuring all spoken words are captured verbatim without interpretation or omission, and adhering to the specific rules of evidence and procedure governing discovery in the relevant jurisdiction. The reporter must also be aware of potential objections and ensure they are properly noted in the transcript. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves meticulously transcribing every word spoken by the deponent, the attorneys, and any other participants, including pauses, stutters, and nonverbal cues that are relevant to the testimony. This verbatim transcription is mandated by rules of procedure governing depositions, which are a crucial part of the discovery process. The reporter must also accurately record any objections made by counsel and the rulings thereon, if any, as these are vital for the record and subsequent legal arguments. This adherence to verbatim reporting and accurate recording of procedural events ensures the integrity of the discovery record, which is fundamental to due process and the fair administration of justice. It directly supports the legal framework by providing an accurate and complete basis for motions and trial proceedings. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to paraphrase or summarize the deponent's testimony to make it more concise or easier to read. This violates the fundamental principle of verbatim transcription required in legal proceedings. Such an approach introduces the reporter's interpretation, potentially altering the meaning or emphasis of the testimony, and fails to capture nuances that may be critical to a judge or jury. This constitutes a failure to uphold professional standards and regulatory requirements for accurate record-keeping, undermining the reliability of the discovery process. Another incorrect approach would be to omit or ignore objections made by counsel during the deposition. Objections are a critical part of the discovery process, signaling potential issues with the admissibility of evidence. Failing to record these objections and any subsequent rulings means the official record is incomplete, hindering the ability of attorneys to make informed arguments in motions or at trial. This omission is a direct contravention of the reporter's duty to create a complete and accurate record, potentially prejudicing a party's legal rights. A third incorrect approach would be to engage in any form of communication with the deponent or attorneys that could be perceived as influencing the testimony or the record, such as suggesting alternative phrasing or clarifying questions. This crosses the line from neutral transcription to active participation, compromising the reporter's impartiality. Such actions would violate ethical guidelines and potentially introduce bias into the record, rendering it unreliable for legal purposes and exposing the reporter to disciplinary action. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach this situation by strictly adhering to their oath and the established rules of court reporting. This involves a commitment to verbatim accuracy, impartiality, and the faithful recording of all spoken words and procedural events. Decision-making should be guided by the principle of preserving the integrity of the record above all else. When in doubt about how to record a specific utterance or event, the reporter should err on the side of caution by recording it as accurately as possible and noting any ambiguity. Familiarity with the federal rules of civil procedure or equivalent state rules governing depositions and the Code of Professional Conduct for court reporters is essential for navigating these challenges. Question 4. Regulatory review indicates that during a deposition, an attorney objects to a witness's statement stating, "Objection, hearsay." The witness then proceeds to answer the question, what is the registered professional reporter's absolute priority in transcribing this exchange? Option A. Advise the witness not to answer the question due to the hearsay objection. Option B. Transcribe only the witness's statement, assuming the objection was sustained and the statement is inadmissible. Option C. Transcribe the witness's statement verbatim and include the attorney's objection, hearsay, in the record. Option D. Omit the witness's statement from the transcript because it was objected to as hearsay. The correct answer is C. Transcribe the witness's statement verbatim and include the attorney's objection, hearsay, in the record. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the nuanced application of hearsay rules in a deposition setting. The RPR must accurately transcribe statements while understanding the potential admissibility issues that may arise later in court. Challenge lies in distinguishing between a direct statement of fact and an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, which is the core of the hearsay rule. The RPR's role is to create a verbatim record, but an awareness of evidentiary principles informs the accuracy and completeness of that record, particularly when objections are made. The correct approach involves accurately transcribing the witness's statement verbatim, including the objection. This represents best professional practice because the RPR's primary duty is to provide an accurate and complete transcript of everything said during the deposition, including objections. Federal rules of evidence, specifically Rule 801, define hearsay, and Rule 802 prohibits its admission unless an exception applies. While the attorney is responsible for making the objection and arguing its merits, the RPR's responsibility is to record the proceedings faithfully. Transcribing the objection alongside the statement ensures that the record reflects the full exchange, allowing the court or other parties to later assess the admissibility of the statement based on the objection. This adheres to the RPR's ethical obligation to maintain impartiality and accuracy. An incorrect approach would be to omit the witness's statement or the attorney's objection. Omitting the statement, even if potentially hearsay, is a failure to create a verbatim record. Omitting the objection is also a failure to accurately reflect the proceedings. This deprives the reviewing court of crucial context regarding the testimony and the parties' positions. Such an omission constitutes a regulatory failure to adhere to the standards of professional reporting, which demand complete and accurate transcription. Another incorrect approach would be for the RPR to make a judgment call on whether the statement is hearsay and only transcribe it if they deem it admissible. This is beyond the RPR's scope of authority and constitutes a significant ethical and professional failure. The RPR is a neutral recorder, not a legal arbiter. The professional decision-making process for RPRs in such situations should involve a clear understanding of their role, to record accurately and impartially. When an objection is made, the RPR should note the objection and continue to transcribe the witness's response verbatim. The RPR should not attempt to interpret the legal significance of the statement or the objection. Instead, they should rely on their training to capture the spoken word precisely as it is uttered, ensuring that the transcript serves as a reliable record for subsequent legal review. Question 5. Stakeholder feedback indicates that a client, a new startup, is seeking guidance on whether to incorporate as a C corporation, an S corporation, a partnership, or an LLC, and has asked for the registered professional reporter's opinion on which structure would be most beneficial for their business operations and tax implications. Option A. Provide a detailed analysis of the pros and cons of C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, and LLCs, and recommend the structure that appears to be the most advantageous based on the startup's stated goals. Option B. Offer to draft the necessary legal documents for the chosen business structure, assuring the client that the reporter has experience in business formation paperwork. Option C. Suggest that the client consult with a qualified attorney or accountant to discuss their business structure options, as this requires specialized legal and financial expertise. Option D. Politely decline to offer an opinion on the business structure, explaining that providing such advice falls outside the scope of a registered professional reporter's services, and instead offer to accurately transcribe any meetings where these decisions are discussed. The correct answer is D. Politely decline to offer an opinion on the business structure, explaining that providing such advice falls outside the scope of a registered professional reporter's services, and instead offer to accurately transcribe any meetings where these decisions are discussed. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the inherent conflict between maintaining strict neutrality and fulfilling a request that could be perceived as influencing a business decision. The RPR's role is to accurately and impartially record proceedings. Involvement in advising on the legal structure of a business, even indirectly, blurs the lines of professional responsibility and could compromise the integrity of their reporting services. The challenge lies in navigating this request without overstepping professional boundaries or appearing to provide legal counsel, which is outside the RPR's scope of practice. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach is to politely decline the request to advise on the business structure and instead offer to provide accurate verbatim transcripts of relevant legal discussions or to record any meetings where such decisions are being made. This upholds the RPR's core duty of impartiality and accuracy. By focusing on the provision of verbatim records, the RPR remains within their defined professional scope, adhering to the ethical guidelines that mandate neutrality and avoidance of conflicts of interest. This approach ensures that the RPR services are utilized for their intended purpose accurate documentation without engaging in activities that could be construed as legal advice or advocacy. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to offer advice on the advantages and disadvantages of different business structures, corporations, partnerships, LLC. This constitutes providing legal counsel, which is outside the RPR's professional purview and licensing. Doing so would violate ethical standards by engaging in the unauthorized practice of law and creating a significant conflict of interest, potentially compromising the RPR's objectivity in future reporting related to the business. Another incorrect approach is to suggest a specific business structure based on perceived client needs without a legal background. This is a direct form of legal advice and carries the risk of providing inaccurate or inappropriate guidance, leading to detrimental legal and financial consequences for the client. Ethically, it breaches the RPR's duty to operate within their scope of expertise and maintain professional integrity. A third incorrect approach is to agree to draft legal documents related to business formation. This is a clear instance of engaging in legal practice without a license. It not only violates professional ethics and potentially legal statutes regarding the practice of law, but also exposes the RPR to significant liability should the drafted documents be flawed or inadequate. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must employ a decision-making process that prioritizes ethical conduct, adherence to scope of practice, and avoidance of conflicts of interest. When faced with requests that fall outside their defined professional responsibilities, the appropriate action is to clearly and politely decline, explaining the limitations of their role. Professionals should then offer services that are within their expertise and ethical boundaries. This involves a continuous assessment of requests against professional codes of conduct and legal regulations governing their practice. Maintaining clear boundaries protects both the professional and the client, ensuring the integrity of the services provided. Question 6. Cost-benefit analysis shows that while minimizing interruptions is generally desirable for the smooth flow of legal proceedings, the paramount benefit of an accurate and complete verbatim record outweighs the temporary disruption caused by seeking clarification from a speaker with a strong accent and rapid speech pattern. Considering this, what is the most professionally responsible course of action for a registered professional reporter when faced with such a speaker? Option A. Attempt to infer the meaning of unclear words from the surrounding context and proceed without interruption. Option B. Politely interrupt the speaker to request repetition or slower speech, ensuring the accuracy of the record. Option C. Make a best guess at the unclear words and proceed, noting the uncertainty in the transcript. Option D. Continue recording at the fastest possible pace, hoping to decipher the unclear portions later through review. The correct answer is B. Politely interrupt the speaker to request repetition or slower speech, ensuring the accuracy of the record. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the inherent difficulty in accurately capturing verbatim testimony when a speaker has a strong accent and speaks rapidly. The RPR's primary duty, as governed by the National Court Reporters Association, NCRA Code of Professional Conduct, is to produce an accurate and complete record. This requires not only technical proficiency in stenography, but also the ability to adapt to diverse speaking patterns and potential communication barriers. The risk assessment here involves balancing the need for speed and efficiency with the absolute imperative of accuracy. Failure to achieve accuracy can lead to miscarriages of justice, legal challenges, and damage to the reporter's professional reputation and the integrity of the judicial process. The correct approach prioritizes obtaining clarification and ensuring accuracy, even if it slightly impacts the flow of proceedings. This aligns with the NCRA Code's emphasis on impartiality, accuracy, and completeness. By politely interrupting to request repetition or slower speech, the RPR actively mitigates the risk of misinterpretation or omission. This proactive measure demonstrates a commitment to the highest standards of reporting and upholds the reporter's ethical obligation to provide a faithful record. It is a demonstration of professional judgment in navigating a difficult situation to achieve the ultimate goal of an accurate transcript. An incorrect approach that involves guessing or assuming the meaning of unclear words is a direct violation of the RPR's duty of accuracy. This introduces a high risk of factual errors in the transcript, which can have severe legal consequences. Ethically, it is a failure to uphold the integrity of the record. Another incorrect approach, such as proceeding without attempting to clarify and then later trying to reconstruct the meaning from context, is also problematic. While context can be helpful, it is not a substitute for verbatim accuracy. Relying solely on context can lead to subtle but significant misrepresentations of spoken words, failing the accuracy requirement. Furthermore, ignoring the difficulty and hoping for the best is a dereliction of professional duty, as it fails to proactively address a known impediment to accurate reporting. The professional decision-making process in such situations involves a rapid assessment of the risk to accuracy. The RPR must consider the potential impact of misheard words or phrases on the legal proceedings. The guiding principle should always be the verbatim record. When faced with a difficult speaker, the reporter should employ strategies to ensure accuracy, such as requesting repetition, asking for slower speech, or utilizing contextual clues after attempting direct clarification. The decision to interrupt, while potentially disruptive, is justified when it is the only means to ensure the integrity of the record. This is a judgment call that prioritizes the fundamental requirements of the profession over minor procedural considerations. Question 7. Implementation of a trial's order of proceedings requires careful adherence to established legal protocols. During a complex civil litigation, counsel for plaintiff approaches the court reporter, requesting to deliver their opening statement immediately, before the defense counsel has had an opportunity to present theirs, citing a perceived strategic advantage. The court has not yet issued any specific directive regarding this deviation. What is the registered professional reporter's most appropriate course of action? Option A. Inform counsel that the order of proceedings is determined by the court, and that the reporter will record statements as they are presented in the courtroom according to established procedure, and await the judge's instruction if a deviation is ordered. Option B. Proceed with recording the plaintiff's opening statement as requested, ensuring the record accurately reflects the order of events. Option C. Record the plaintiff's opening statement, and then refuse to record the defense counsel's opening statement if it is presented later, deeming the initial deviation as setting a new precedent for the order. Option D. Advise the plaintiff's counsel on the best strategic timing for their opening statement to maximize its impact, thereby facilitating their request. The correct answer is B. Proceed with recording the plaintiff's opening statement as requested, ensuring the record accurately reflects the order of events. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the reporter's duty to accurately and impartially record the proceedings and the strategic considerations of legal counsel regarding the order of presentation. The reporter must remain neutral and adhere strictly to the established rules of court procedure, ensuring that the record reflects what actually occurs, not what counsel wishes to present or how they wish to frame it. The reporter's role is to document, not to influence or facilitate strategic maneuvering. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the integrity of the official record and adherence to established procedural rules. By allowing counsel to proceed with their opening statements as scheduled, and then accurately transcribing the subsequent examinations and closing arguments, the reporter upholds the principle of impartiality and ensures that the court record is a faithful representation of the proceedings as they unfold. This aligns with the ethical obligations of a registered professional reporter to maintain accuracy, objectivity, and adherence to legal protocols. An incorrect approach that involves the reporter unilaterally altering the order of proceedings based on a lawyer's request to present their opening statement before the opposing counsels, even if it seems strategically advantageous to one party, constitutes a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This action would be considered an improper interference with the judicial process, and a breach of the reporter's neutrality could be construed as assisting one party over another, compromising the integrity of the record and potentially violating rules of court procedure that govern the order of events in a trial. Furthermore, such an action could lead to a flawed record, impacting appellate review and the administration of justice. Another incorrect approach would be for the reporter to refuse to record an opening statement because it is perceived as overly argumentative or inflammatory. The reporter's role is to record what is said, not to judge its content or admissibility. Objections to the substance of statements are for the judge to rule upon. By refusing to record, the reporter is exceeding their mandate and creating an incomplete and inaccurate record, which is a direct violation of their professional duties. The professional reasoning process for a registered professional reporter in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the rules of court procedure governing the order of proceedings. When faced with a request that deviates from these established rules, the reporter should consult the presiding judge or court officer for clarification and direction. The reporter's primary responsibility is to accurately and impartially document the proceedings as they are conducted under the court's supervision. They must avoid any action that could be perceived as influencing the proceedings or compromising the integrity of the official record. Question 8. Quality control measures reveal a transcript where an attorney objected to a witness's testimony and the judge responded, "I'll allow it." However, the transcript only records the objection and omits the judge's ruling, leaving the admissibility of the testimony unclear in the official record. Which of the following best describes the professional failing in this scenario? Option A. The reporter incorrectly interpreted the judge's intent and paraphrased the ruling. Option B. The reporter failed to create a complete and accurate verbatim record by omitting the judge's ruling. Option C. The reporter should have advised the attorneys on the legal implications of the objection. Option D. The reporter should have stopped the proceedings to research the objection's validity. Correct answer is B. The reporter failed to create a complete and accurate verbatim record by omitting the judge's ruling. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the registered professional reporter, RPR, to make an immediate on-the-record decision regarding the admissibility of testimony based on a specific objection. The RPR's role is not to rule on the objection, but to accurately record the proceedings, including the objection and the court's ruling. Misinterpreting or misapplying the ruling can lead to an inaccurate record, which is a fundamental breach of professional duty. The pressure of a live hearing, the need for precise transcription, and the potential for legal ramifications necessitate careful judgment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach is to accurately transcribe the objection as stated by counsel, and then accurately transcribe the judge's ruling, whether it is sustained or overruled. This adheres strictly to the RPR's mandate to create a verbatim record of the proceedings. The National Court Reporters Association, NCRA Code of Professional Ethics, which governs RPRs in the U.S., emphasizes accuracy, impartiality, and the creation of a complete and truthful record. Recording the ruling precisely as uttered by the judge ensures that the official transcript reflects exactly what transpired in court, allowing the attorneys and the court to address any disputes regarding the ruling later through proper legal channels. Incorrect approaches analysis. Failing to record the objection and ruling entirely is a direct violation of the RPR's duty to create a complete and accurate record. This omission fundamentally compromises the integrity of the transcript and can lead to significant legal consequences for the parties involved. It is an ethical failure to omit material parts of the proceeding, attempting to interpret the objection or the judge's intent, and then transcribing a modified version of the ruling is also a serious ethical and professional failure. The RPR is not a legal advisor or interpreter. Their role is to record, not to judge or rephrase. This action introduces bias and inaccuracy into the record, violating the principle of impartiality and the requirement for a verbatim record. Recording the objection but then omitting the ruling, or vice versa, creates an incomplete record. This is as detrimental as omitting the entire exchange, as it leaves a critical part of the evidentiary or procedural ruling unrecorded, potentially hindering appellate review or subsequent legal actions. This is a failure to meet the core responsibility of creating a comprehensive and truthful record. Professional reasoning. When faced with an objection and ruling, the RPR's decision-making process should be as follows. 1. Listen intently to the objection as stated by counsel. 2. Listen intently to the judge's ruling. 3. Transcribe both the objection and the ruling verbatim, using the exact words spoken by the participants. 4. If the ruling is unclear, the RPR should make a note to seek clarification from the court reporter or judge after the immediate proceedings have concluded, if permissible and necessary for accuracy, but never during the live testimony or ruling itself. The primary duty is to capture the spoken word accurately in real time. 5. If there is a concern about the accuracy of the recording after the fact, the RPR should consult with the court and opposing counsel to ensure the transcript is corrected according to established procedures for transcript amendments. Question 9. The control framework reveals a situation where a witness hesitates and utters a sound that could be interpreted as the beginning of a common prefix, such as un, or a truncated suffix like ing, before correcting themselves and speaking a different word. The reporter must decide how to accurately represent this spoken utterance in the official transcript. Option A. Transcribe the initial sound as a prefix or suffix, followed by the corrected word, noting the uncertainty in brackets. Option B. Transcribe the initial sound as if it were the intended prefix or suffix, followed by the corrected word without any notation of uncertainty. Option C. Transcribe only the corrected word, omitting the initial hesitant sound. Option D. Transcribe the initial sound as a separate, unintelligible word. Correct answer is A. Transcribe the initial sound as a prefix or suffix, followed by the corrected word, noting the uncertainty in brackets. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in transcription, accurately capturing and correctly formatting the nuances of spoken language, particularly when dealing with prefixes, suffixes, and intermediate word fragments that may be unclear or spoken rapidly. The professional reporter's duty is to produce a verbatim record that is both accurate and compliant with established standards, ensuring the integrity of the legal or official proceeding. This scenario is challenging because the reporter must exercise keen auditory perception and apply precise knowledge of transcription conventions without introducing ambiguity or misinterpretation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes verbatim accuracy and adherence to established reporting guidelines. By recognizing the spoken fragment as a potential prefix or suffix and seeking clarification, or noting the uncertainty appropriately, the reporter upholds the principle of an exact record. This aligns with the ethical obligation to provide an unadulterated transcript, preventing any potential misrepresentation of the speaker's intent or the factual record. The use of specific notation for unclear speech, as per established style guides, is a critical component of this best practice. An incorrect approach that involves guessing the intended word or phrase is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This introduces speculation into the official record, violating the verbatim requirement. It can lead to misinterpretations in subsequent legal proceedings, potentially impacting case outcomes. Another incorrect approach, such as omitting the unclear fragment entirely, also constitutes a failure. This creates an incomplete record, which is equally detrimental to the integrity of the transcript and the proceedings it represents. Failing to use established conventions for noting unclear speech, such as bracketed notations or specific symbols, is a failure to adhere to professional standards and can lead to confusion for the reader. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a systematic process. First, active listening and immediate recognition of potential ambiguities. Second, application of knowledge regarding common prefixes, suffixes, and idiomatic speech patterns. Third, if certainty cannot be achieved through auditory perception alone, the reporter must employ established methods for indicating uncertainty or seeking clarification, either by asking the speaker to repeat or by using standardized notations within the transcript. The ultimate goal is to maintain the highest degree of accuracy and fidelity to the spoken word, within the bounds of professional standards. Question 10. Benchmark analysis indicates that a registered professional reporter's real-time output requires optimization, Which of the following approaches best aligns with the professional standards and ethical obligations for enhancing real-time software proficiency? Option A. Rely solely on informal advice from colleagues about which real-time software features are most popular, without independently verifying their effectiveness or suitability for personal workflow. Option B. Systematically analyze personal real-time transcripts against established benchmarks, identify specific areas of weakness, e.g., punctuation, word accuracy, speed, and engage in targeted practice sessions and seek feedback from experienced peers or mentors. Option C. Reduce personal real-time practice to focus on attending broader professional development seminars that cover general court reporting techniques but do not specifically address real-time software proficiency. Option D. Immediately adopt the latest real-time software updates and features, assuming they will inherently improve performance without dedicated practice or analysis of their impact on personal accuracy. The correct answer is B. Systematically analyze personal real-time transcripts against established benchmarks, identify specific areas of weakness, e.g., punctuation, word accuracy, speed, and engage in targeted practice sessions and seek feedback from experienced peers or mentors. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the Registered Professional Reporter (RPR) is tasked with optimizing their real-time software proficiency, core competency directly impacting the accuracy and efficiency of their reporting services. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective and compliant methods for improvement within the established regulatory framework for RPRs. Careful judgment is required to select strategies that enhance skill without compromising professional standards or ethical obligations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it focuses on a systematic, evidence-based method for skill enhancement. By analyzing personal real-time output against established benchmarks and identifying specific areas for improvement, the RPR can target their training effectively. This aligns with the professional obligation to maintain and enhance skills, ensuring the highest quality of service. Furthermore, seeking feedback from peers and mentors and engaging in structured practice sessions are recognized methods for professional development that are implicitly encouraged by the pursuit of excellence in the RPR profession. This proactive and analytical approach ensures that improvements are measurable and sustainable, directly benefiting clients and upholding the integrity of the reporting profession. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on adopting the newest software features without understanding their practical application or impact on accuracy is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a superficial improvement or even a decline in performance if the new features are not mastered. It fails to address the core need for improved real-time proficiency and may violate the implicit ethical duty to provide accurate and reliable transcripts. Another incorrect approach that involves neglecting personal real-time practice in favor of other professional development activities is also professionally unsound. A broad professional development is valuable. It cannot substitute for the direct, ongoing practice required to maintain and improve real-time skills. This neglect could lead to a degradation of core competencies, potentially resulting in inaccurate transcripts and a failure to meet client expectations, which is an ethical failing. Finally, an approach that relies on anecdotal advice from colleagues without verifying its efficacy or regulatory compliance is risky. While peer advice can be helpful, it may not be universally applicable or aligned with best practices or regulatory expectations for RPRs. Relying on unverified information can lead to inefficient or even counterproductive training methods, failing to achieve the desired optimization and potentially leading to professional shortcomings. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the RPR's core competencies and the regulatory expectations associated with them. Professionals should always prioritize strategies that are systematic, evidence-based, and directly contribute to skill enhancement. Seeking feedback, engaging in structured practice, and continuously evaluating progress are key components of a robust professional development plan. When considering new tools or techniques, a critical assessment of their practical utility and potential impact on accuracy and efficiency is essential. Adherence to ethical guidelines and professional standards should always be the guiding principle in all professional development endeavors. Question 11. Investigation of a real estate dispute involving contested ownership of a beachfront property. The registered professional reporter must ensure the transcript accurately reflects all testimony and evidence presented regarding the property's legal description, any existing easements or covenants, and the chain of title as discussed by witnesses and legal counsel. Which approach best upholds the RPR's professional responsibilities? Option A. Prioritize verbatim transcription of all statements concerning the property's legal boundaries, ownership claims, encumbrances, and historical ownership records, even if the language is technical or complex. Option B. Interpret and rephrase complex legal descriptions of property rights into simpler terms to ensure clarity for all parties reading the transcript. Option C. Focus on summarizing the core dispute over the property's value and the general nature of the ownership claims to make the transcript more concise and easier to understand for a layperson. Option D. Emphasize the RPR's personal understanding of property law to clarify any ambiguities in the testimony regarding the property's legal status. The correct answer is A. Prioritize verbatim transcription of all statements concerning the property's legal boundaries, ownership claims, encumbrances, and historical ownership records, even if the language is technical or complex. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the inherent complexities of property law and the need to accurately document legal proceedings involving real and personal property rights. The RPR must possess a nuanced understanding of how these rights are established, transferred, and disputed within the specific regulatory framework governing their practice. The challenge lies in precisely capturing the testimony and evidence presented, ensuring that legal terminology related to property is recorded verbatim and without misinterpretation, as inaccuracies could have significant legal ramifications for the parties involved. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between statements of fact, opinion, and legal argument, all of which are critical to the record. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the RPR's duty to provide an accurate and complete verbatim record of the proceedings. This aligns with the ethical obligations and professional standards expected of an RPR, which mandate impartiality, accuracy, and adherence to the rules of court. By focusing on the precise language used by witnesses and legal counsel concerning property descriptions, ownership claims, encumbrances, and rights of possession, the RPR ensures that the official transcript faithfully reflects the proceedings. This meticulous attention to detail is crucial for subsequent legal review, appeals, and the enforcement of property-related judgments. The RPR's role is to be a neutral conduit of information, not an interpreter or legal advisor, and this approach upholds that principle. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the monetary value of the property without detailing the legal basis of ownership or claims would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to capture the essence of the property dispute, which is rooted in legal rights and interests, not just financial worth. Such an approach would violate the RPR's duty to record all relevant testimony and evidence, leading to an incomplete and potentially misleading transcript. Another incorrect approach that attempts to simplify complex legal descriptions of property boundaries or easements for the sake of brevity would also be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. The RPR's mandate is to record verbatim, not to paraphrase or summarize. Simplifying such details could alter the legal meaning and intent of the testimony, creating ambiguity where clarity is paramount. This undermines the integrity of the record and could prejudice the parties by misrepresenting their statements. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes the RPR's personal understanding of property law over the exact words spoken by participants would be a critical error. While a foundational understanding is necessary, the RPR's role is to transcribe, not to apply their own legal knowledge to modify or interpret the record. This would constitute an overreach of professional duties and could introduce bias or inaccuracies into the transcript, violating the principle of verbatim reporting. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a constant self-awareness of the RPR's role as a neutral recorder. When faced with complex property law terminology or descriptions, the RPR should focus on accurate phonetic transcription, and if necessary, seek clarification from the court or counsel regarding pronunciation or specific terms during the proceedings, rather than making assumptions or alterations. The ultimate goal is to produce a transcript that is a faithful and complete representation of everything that was said, allowing legal professionals to interpret its meaning within the proper legal context. Question 12. What factors determine the appropriate technique for a registered professional reporter to employ when documenting witness testimony during direct, cross, redirect, and recross examinations to ensure absolute verbatim accuracy and professional impartiality? Option A. The reporter's inclusion of observations about the witness's tone of voice, body language, and emotional state to provide context for the spoken words in the transcript. Option B. The reporter's ability to capture the exact spoken words, including hesitations, stutters, and grammatical errors, without any interpretation or alteration, while maintaining a neutral stance. Option C. The reporter's judgment on how to best phrase the witness's statements for clarity and readability in the final transcript, prioritizing the ease of understanding for legal professionals. Option D. The reporter's decision to pause the proceedings to ask the witness to repeat themselves if a statement is unclear to the reporter, ensuring the reporter personally understands the testimony. The correct answer is B. The reporter's ability to capture the exact spoken words, including hesitations, stutters, and grammatical errors, without any interpretation or alteration, while maintaining a neutral stance. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the registered professional reporter, RPR, must maintain absolute neutrality and accuracy while documenting potentially contentious testimony. The RPR's role is to capture verbatim what is said, not to interpret or influence the proceedings. The challenge lies in accurately transcribing rapid speech, complex legal jargon, and emotional outbursts without injecting personal bias or missing critical details. Careful judgment is required to ensure the transcript is a faithful record, which is paramount for legal proceedings. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes verbatim accuracy and adherence to the National Court Reporters Association (NCRA) Code of Professional Ethics. Specifically, it upholds the ethical canons of accuracy, impartiality, and confidentiality. By focusing solely on the accurate transcription of the witness's testimony, the RPR ensures the integrity of the record, which is essential for due process and the administration of justice. This approach avoids any action that could be construed as coaching, leading, or influencing the witness, thereby maintaining the RPR's role as a neutral observer and recorder. An incorrect approach that involves pausing to clarify ambiguous statements or asking the witness to repeat themselves for the reporter's understanding, rather than for the record, represents a regulatory and ethical failure. This action crosses the line from transcription to participation, potentially influencing the witness's testimony or the flow of examination. It violates the principle of impartiality by actively engaging with the witness in a manner that is not strictly for the purpose of verbatim recording. Furthermore, it could be seen as a breach of confidentiality if the clarification involves discussing the content of the testimony outside the official record. Another incorrect approach, such as making a note of the witness's demeanor or emotional state for inclusion in the transcript, is also a regulatory and ethical failure. The RPR's duty is to record spoken words, not to interpret or report on nonverbal cues or subjective observations. This violates the canon of accuracy by introducing information that was not spoken and the canon of impartiality by injecting subjective interpretation. The transcript should reflect only what was said, allowing the court or parties to assess demeanor. Finally, an incorrect approach that involves subtly altering the phrasing of a witness's statement to make it grammatically correct or more concise for the transcript is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This directly violates the canon of accuracy by creating a record that is not verbatim. It undermines the fundamental purpose of the RPR's role, which is to provide an exact transcription of the proceedings. Such an action could have severe legal consequences, as the transcript would not be a true and accurate representation of the testimony. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a constant internal check against the NCRA Code of Professional Ethics. When faced with a challenging moment during testimony, the RPR must ask, is this action strictly necessary for verbatim transcription? And does this action maintain my neutrality and impartiality? If the answer to either question is no, the action should be avoided. The RPR should rely on their stenographic skills and advanced technology to capture the testimony accurately. And if a word or phrase is truly unintelligible, the proper procedure is to indicate that in the transcript, not to seek clarification that alters the record. Question 13. When evaluating the accuracy of a transcript for a highly technical medical deposition, what is the most appropriate decision-making framework for a registered professional reporter to ensure verbatim accuracy? Option A. Prioritize speed of delivery by transcribing as quickly as possible and relying on automated spell check for corrections. Option B. Omit any terms that are not immediately recognizable to avoid potential inaccuracies in the transcript. Option C. Transcribe the deposition verbatim in real time and assume the attorneys will correct any errors during the review process. Option D. Employ advanced stenographic techniques, utilize specialized dictionaries for technical terms, and conduct a comprehensive post-deposition review with cross-referencing. Correct answer is A. Prioritize speed of delivery by transcribing as quickly as possible and relying on automated spell check for corrections. Explanation. Scenario analysis. A registered professional reporter (RPR) is tasked with transcribing a complex legal deposition involving highly technical medical terminology and rapid-fire questioning. The challenge lies in ensuring absolute accuracy under pressure, where even a minor transcription error could have significant legal ramifications, potentially impacting the integrity of the record and the outcome of the case. The RPR must balance speed with precision, relying on their expertise and available resources to produce a verbatim transcript. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves utilizing a multi-layered strategy for accuracy. This includes employing advanced stenographic techniques, leveraging real-time translation software for unfamiliar terms, and conducting a thorough post-deposition review. The RPR should cross-reference technical terms with authoritative medical dictionaries and legal glossaries, and if necessary, consult with the attorneys involved to clarify any ambiguities. This meticulous process directly aligns with the RPR's ethical obligation under the National Court Reporters Association, NCRA Code of Professional Ethics, specifically Canon I, which mandates that RPRs shall be accurate and thorough in reporting. Adherence to these standards ensures the integrity of the official record, a cornerstone of the judicial system. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to rely solely on the initial stenographic capture without subsequent verification. This fails to acknowledge the inherent possibility of human error or the limitations of real-time transcription, especially with complex subject matter. This approach violates the NCRA Code of Professional Ethics, particularly Canon I, by not being thorough. Another incorrect approach is to guess at unfamiliar terminology or to omit it entirely. Guessing introduces inaccuracies, while omission creates an incomplete record. Both actions undermine the RPR's duty to provide a verbatim transcript, as stipulated by professional standards and implied in the role of an RPR. This constitutes a failure of thoroughness and accuracy. A third incorrect approach is to delegate the accuracy verification to a junior reporter without direct oversight or a clear quality control protocol. While delegation can be efficient, it shifts responsibility for accuracy without ensuring the same level of expertise and diligence. This can lead to errors being overlooked and is a breach of the RPR's ultimate accountability for the transcript's fidelity. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes accuracy and ethical conduct. This involves a proactive approach to identifying potential challenges, e.g., complex terminology, implementing robust verification processes, and maintaining a commitment to continuous learning and skill development. When faced with uncertainty, the professional should err on the side of caution, seeking clarification and employing all available resources to ensure the highest level of accuracy. The RPR's primary duty is to the integrity of the record, which necessitates a rigorous and uncompromised approach to accuracy. Question 14. Governance review demonstrates that a registered professional reporter has been approached by an attorney during a recess to discuss the perceived credibility of a witness whose testimony is currently being transcribed. The attorney is seeking the reporter's informal opinion on whether the witness was being truthful. What is the most appropriate course of action for the registered professional reporter? Option A. Politely decline to offer any opinion, stating that their role is to accurately record the proceedings and then return to their duties. Option B. Offer a detailed interpretation of the witness's testimony and suggest potential inconsistencies to the attorney as this could assist in the case. Option C. Provide a brief, subjective assessment of the witness's demeanor to the attorney, as this is a common practice among court personnel. Option D. Agree to discuss the witness's credibility with the attorney after the proceedings have concluded, to avoid disrupting the current session. The correct answer is A. Politely decline to offer any opinion, stating that their role is to accurately record the proceedings and then return to their duties. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the inherent need for impartiality and accuracy when communicating with legal professionals. Attorneys and judges operate within a strict legal framework where precise record-keeping and unbiased reporting are paramount. Any deviation from professional standards can have significant legal ramifications, including the integrity of court proceedings and the potential for mistrials or appeals. The RPR's role is to be a neutral conduit of information, and any communication that could be perceived as influencing or misrepresenting the proceedings undermines this critical function. Correct approach analysis. Maintaining a professional and neutral demeanor and only communicating factual information directly related to the record or necessary procedural clarifications represents best professional practice. This aligns with the ethical canons and professional standards expected of RPRs, which emphasize accuracy, impartiality, and confidentiality. Specifically, the National Court Reporters Association, NCRA, Code of Professional Conduct mandates that reporters be objective and avoid any action that could compromise the integrity of the record. Communicating only factual information ensures that the reporter remains an unbiased observer and recorder, upholding the trust placed in them by the court and the parties involved. Incorrect approaches analysis. Engaging in discussions about the merits of a case or offering opinions on testimony constitutes a significant ethical and professional failure. This directly violates the RPR's duty of impartiality and risks introducing bias into the official record. Such actions could be construed as interfering with the judicial process, potentially leading to disciplinary action by the NCRA and jeopardizing the reporter's certification. Providing interpretations or summaries of testimony beyond what is strictly recorded is also a breach of professional conduct. The RPR's responsibility is to transcribe verbatim, not to interpret. Offering interpretations can lead to misrepresentations of the actual spoken word, which can have severe consequences in legal proceedings where precise language is critical. This undermines the accuracy of the record and the reporter's credibility. Sharing information about ongoing proceedings with external parties without proper authorization is a violation of confidentiality and can compromise the integrity of the judicial process. RPRs are privy to sensitive information and are bound by strict confidentiality rules. Unauthorized disclosure can lead to legal repercussions and damage the trust essential for their role. Professional reasoning. When faced with communication requests from attorneys or judges, an RPR should always prioritize the integrity of the record and their professional neutrality. The decision-making process should involve a clear assessment of whether the communication is purely procedural, directly related to the accuracy of the transcript, or falls outside the scope of the RPR's duties. If there is any doubt, the reporter should err on the side of caution, seeking clarification from the presiding judge or adhering strictly to established protocols for record maintenance and communication. The guiding principle is always to serve as an accurate and impartial recorder of the proceedings. Question 15. Operational review demonstrates that during a deposition for a personal injury lawsuit, a deponent under oath makes a statement that could be interpreted as an admission of fault regarding the incident in question. The attorney for the plaintiff requests a verbatim transcript of the deposition. As a registered professional reporter, what is the most appropriate course of action regarding the deponent's statement? Option A. Refuse to provide the transcript until the attorneys clarify the legal significance of the deponent's statement. Option B. Omit the statement of fault from the transcript to avoid potentially prejudicing the deponent. Option C. Advise the attorneys on the legal implications of the deponent's statement and how it might establish negligence. Option D. Provide the complete verbatim transcript of the deposition, including the statement of fault, without alteration or commentary. The correct answer is D. Provide the complete verbatim transcript of the deposition, including the statement of fault, without alteration or commentary. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the potential for their verbatim record to become evidence in a legal proceeding involving a tort claim. The RPR's duty is to accurately and impartially capture spoken words. However, the context of the conversation, particularly the admission of fault, introduces a layer of complexity. The RPR must understand the implications of their recording and transcription without overstepping their role as a neutral observer. The challenge lies in balancing the obligation to provide a complete and accurate record with the awareness that this record could be used to establish liability. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it adheres strictly to the RPR's core ethical and professional obligations as defined by the National Court Reporters Association, NCRA Code of Professional Conduct, which governs RPRs in the U.S. Specifically, it aligns with the principles of accuracy, impartiality, and maintaining the integrity of the record. By providing the verbatim transcript as requested, the RPR fulfills their duty to accurately document the proceedings. The decision not to offer legal advice or interpret the statements is crucial. RPRs are not legal professionals and are prohibited from engaging in activities that constitute the unauthorized practice of law. Their role is to record, not to analyze or advise on the legal ramifications of the spoken word. This approach ensures the RPR remains a neutral and objective conduit of information, safeguarding their professional standing and the integrity of the judicial process. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that involves omitting the statement of fault from the transcript would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This constitutes a violation of the RPR's duty to provide a verbatim record. Omitting relevant statements, even if they appear damaging, compromises the accuracy and completeness of the transcript, undermining its evidentiary value and the trust placed in the reporter. This action could be construed as bias or an attempt to influence the outcome of the case, which are direct contraventions of professional conduct. An approach that involves proactively advising the parties on the legal implications of the statement, such as explaining how it might establish negligence or strict liability, represents a severe ethical and regulatory breach. This constitutes the unauthorized practice of law. RPRs are trained in stenographic reporting and transcription, not in legal analysis or advice. Offering such advice exceeds their scope of practice, could lead to misinterpretations, and exposes the RPR to potential liability for providing incorrect legal guidance. It also compromises their neutrality and impartiality. An approach that involves refusing to provide the transcript until the parties clarify the legal significance of the statement is also professionally unacceptable. The RPR's obligation is to provide the record as requested, not to act as an arbiter of its meaning or legal weight. Delaying the provision of the transcript based on a subjective assessment of its legal import is outside the RPR's purview and could impede the legal process. The responsibility for interpreting the transcript and its legal implications rests with the parties and the court, not the reporter. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this situation should follow a clear decision-making process rooted in their professional code of conduct. First, identify the core duty, to provide an accurate and verbatim record. Second, recognize the boundaries of their professional role, to record, not to interpret or advise. Third, assess any potential conflicts or ethical dilemmas, such as the presence of potentially incriminating statements. Fourth, consult the relevant professional code of conduct, e.g., NCRA Code of Professional Conduct for RPRs in the U.S., for guidance on handling such situations. Fifth, prioritize accuracy, impartiality, and adherence to legal and ethical standards. In this case, the RPR's responsibility is to transcribe the statement accurately and deliver the complete transcript without alteration or commentary, leaving the interpretation and legal application to the parties involved. Question 16. The efficiency study reveals that a new software feature promises to significantly reduce transcription time by automatically identifying and flagging potential speaker changes and suggesting punctuation. What is the most appropriate process for a registered professional reporter to adopt regarding this software customization? Option A. Immediately implement the customization to gain a competitive advantage and improve turnaround times, trusting the vendor's claims of efficiency. Option B. Thoroughly test the customization in a controlled environment, comparing its output against verbatim recordings and ensuring it does not alter the accuracy or completeness of the transcript before considering implementation. Option C. Integrate the customization without extensive testing, assuming that any minor inaccuracies can be corrected during a final review. Option D. Adopt the customization, but allow for minor editorial adjustments to enhance readability, as clients often prefer cleaner transcripts. The correct answer is B. Thoroughly test the customization in a controlled environment, comparing its output against verbatim recordings, and ensuring it does not alter the accuracy or completeness of the transcript before considering implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for registered professional reporters, RPR, where technological advancements, specifically software customization, intersect with the core professional responsibility of accurate and timely transcription. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for increased efficiency and potentially improved workflow with the absolute imperative of maintaining the integrity and verbatim accuracy of the record. RPRs operate under strict ethical codes and regulatory frameworks that prioritize fidelity to the spoken word above all else. Any deviation, even if intended to streamline processes, must be rigorously evaluated against these standards. The pressure to adopt new technologies for competitive advantage or client demand can create a conflict with the meticulous nature of the profession. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, systematic, and documented evaluation of any proposed software customization against established professional standards and best practices for RPRs. This includes verifying that the customization does not alter the verbatim nature of the transcript, compromise the accuracy of punctuation or speaker identification, or introduce any potential for misinterpretation. It requires a deep understanding of the specific software's functionalities and how the proposed changes might impact the core transcription process. Best professional practice dictates that any customization must be tested extensively in a controlled environment, with clear protocols for validation and quality assurance, ensuring that the final output remains a faithful and complete record. This aligns with the RPR's ethical obligation to produce accurate and reliable transcripts, as mandated by professional bodies and implied by the trust placed in their services. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a customization based solely on a vendor's assurance of efficiency without independent verification poses a significant regulatory and ethical risk. This approach fails to uphold the RPR's duty of due diligence. If the customization inadvertently alters the verbatim record, even subtly, it constitutes a failure to produce an accurate transcript, violating professional standards. Adopting a customization that prioritizes speed over accuracy, or that allows for any degree of editorial discretion beyond what is strictly necessary for readability, e.g., removing filler words without explicit instruction or legal precedent, is a direct contravention of the verbatim principle. This can lead to an inaccurate or incomplete record, which is ethically unacceptable and potentially legally problematic. Customizing software without a clear understanding of its impact on the final transcript's integrity, or without a robust testing and validation process, demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility. This can result in unforeseen errors or omissions that compromise the reliability of the record, a fundamental requirement of the RPR profession. Professional reasoning. When faced with software customization options, an RPR should employ a decision-making process that prioritizes accuracy, integrity, and compliance. This involves 1. Understanding the core requirements of the RPR profession, particularly the verbatim principle and the need for absolute accuracy. 2. Thoroughly researching and understanding the proposed customization, including its technical implications and potential impact on the transcription output. 3. Conducting independent testing and validation of the customization in a controlled environment, comparing its output against known accurate source material. 4. Consulting relevant professional guidelines and ethical codes to ensure compliance. 5. Documenting the evaluation process, including testing results and the rationale for adoption or rejection of the customization. 6. Prioritizing client needs and legal requirements for the transcript's accuracy and completeness. Question 17. Process analysis reveals a court reporter is transcribing testimony in a contentious divorce case involving child custody and support. The witness, the custodial parent, becomes visibly distressed while describing the other parent's alleged neglect and financial irresponsibility, leading to fragmented and emotionally charged statements regarding the child's needs and the proposed support payments. The reporter must decide how to best capture this testimony for the official record. Option A. Interject clarifying questions to the witness to ensure a clearer and more direct statement of facts regarding the child's needs and support. Option B. Summarize the witness's concerns into more coherent sentences to improve readability and conciseness for the court. Option C. Omit portions of the testimony that appear repetitive or overly emotional, focusing only on the core factual assertions. Option D. Transcribe the testimony verbatim, including all hesitations, emotional inflections, and fragmented sentences, to ensure the most accurate and complete record. The correct answer is D. Transcribe the testimony verbatim, including all hesitations, emotional inflections, and fragmented sentences, to ensure the most accurate and complete record. Explanation. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge in family law reporting, where a reporter must accurately and ethically capture sensitive testimony regarding child custody and support arrangements. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for verbatim accuracy with the potential for emotional distress and the legal implications of misreporting such critical details. The reporter's role is to be a neutral conduit of information, ensuring the record is complete and precise without injecting personal bias or misinterpreting nuanced testimony. The correct approach involves meticulous attention to detail, active listening, and a commitment to verbatim transcription. This ensures that the court record accurately reflects the testimony, which is paramount in legal proceedings. Best professional practice, as guided by the National Court Reporters Association, NCRA Code of Professional Conduct, mandates accuracy, impartiality, and confidentiality. Specifically, the code emphasizes the reporter's duty to transcribe verbatim and to avoid any action that might mislead or deceive the court or parties. In this context, accurately capturing the specific concerns about the child's well-being and the financial details of support demonstrates adherence to these ethical and professional standards. An incorrect approach would be to paraphrase or summarize the testimony, even with the intention of making it more concise. This violates the verbatim requirement and introduces the risk of misinterpretation or omission of crucial details. Such an action could lead to significant legal ramifications if the summarized record differs from the actual testimony, potentially impacting the court's decision. Another incorrect approach would be to omit testimony deemed emotionally difficult or repetitive. While the reporter may perceive certain parts as less critical, their role is to record all testimony presented. Failure to do so compromises the integrity of the record and could be seen as an ethical breach, as it selectively curates the evidence presented to the court. Furthermore, attempting to clarify or interpret the testimony for the parties or the court, even with good intentions, crosses the line from reporting to advocacy or legal interpretation, which is outside the reporter's professional scope and could lead to accusations of bias or undue influence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations requires a strong understanding of the NCRA Code of Professional Conduct, particularly the tenets of accuracy, impartiality, and confidentiality. Reporters should employ active listening techniques, utilize advanced transcription software and hardware, and if necessary, request clarification from the court or attorneys on unclear statements or technical terms. The primary objective is always to create an accurate and complete record that serves the interests of justice. Question 18. Strategic planning requires a registered professional reporter to accurately capture the nuances of legal arguments during a deposition. If an attorney argues that a current case should be decided in a particular way because a previous, similar case was decided identically by a higher court, and later discusses how a prior, fully litigated claim between the same parties on the same issue cannot be brought again, how should the reporter best represent these distinct legal principles in the transcript? Option A. Transcribe the references to the prior rulings and adjudicated claims as general statements about past decisions, without explicitly labeling them with specific legal maxims, to avoid interjecting interpretation into the record. Option B. Summarize the attorney's arguments about prior decisions in a more concise manner to improve readability, rather than transcribing every reference to precedent or prior litigation. Option C. Transcribe the references to the prior rulings and adjudicated claims accurately, identifying them as invocations of stare decisis and res judicata respectively, to preserve the legal context and precision of the arguments presented. Option D. Focus solely on the phonetic accuracy of the spoken words, transcribing stare decisis and res judicata if they are spoken, but not attempting to identify their application if the terms themselves are not explicitly used. The correct answer is C. Transcribe the references to the prior rulings and adjudicated claims accurately, identifying them as invocations of stare decisis and res judicata respectively, to preserve the legal context and precision of the arguments presented. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, tasked with accurately transcribing a deposition that involves complex legal arguments referencing established precedents. The core difficulty lies in ensuring the transcription not only captures the spoken words, but also correctly identifies and attributes legal maxims, particularly stare decisis and res judicata, as these are foundational to legal reasoning and judicial decision-making. Misinterpreting or misrepresenting these maxims could lead to significant inaccuracies in the official record, potentially impacting subsequent legal proceedings. The correct approach emphasizes a thorough understanding and accurate application of legal maxims within the context of the deposition. This involves recognizing the specific legal principles being invoked by the deponent and attorneys, and transcribing them with precision. For stare decisis, this means correctly noting references to prior rulings that bind current decisions. For res judicata, it involves accurately transcribing discussions about claims that have already been finally adjudicated. This meticulous attention to detail ensures the integrity of the official record, upholding the RPR's ethical obligation to provide a verbatim and accurate transcript, which is crucial for legal due process and the administration of justice. This aligns with the RPR's professional duty to maintain accuracy and impartiality. An incorrect approach would be to treat all legal terminology as mere spoken words, without understanding their specific legal weight or implication. For instance, if an attorney refers to a prior case as establishing a precedent, simply transcribing it as a prior case, without recognizing the invocation of stare decisis would be a failure. Similarly, if the discussion centers on a matter that has already been decided, failing to accurately reflect the application of res judicata would be a significant omission. Such an approach risks creating a transcript that, while verbatim in sound, is substantively inaccurate in its legal context, undermining the purpose of the official record. This constitutes a failure to meet the professional standards of an RPR, potentially violating ethical guidelines that mandate accuracy and completeness in reporting legal proceedings. The professional decision-making process for an RPR in such a situation should involve 1. Active listening and comprehension of the legal discourse, not just phonetic transcription. 2. Familiarity with common legal maxims and their application. 3. Consulting legal dictionaries or glossaries if unfamiliar terms or concepts arise, while maintaining impartiality. 4. Prioritizing accuracy and clarity in the final transcript, ensuring that legal principles are represented faithfully. 5. Recognizing that the transcript serves as a critical legal document and any misrepresentation can have serious consequences. Question 19. The monitoring system demonstrates a court reporter transcribing a deposition where opposing counsel states, given the circumstances, the doctrine of res ipsa loquitur clearly applies here. The reporter hesitates, unsure of the precise legal meaning and correct spelling of the Latin phrase. Option A. Transcribe the phrase as res is a loquitur, based on a partial phonetic recognition. Option B. Transcribe the phrase phonetically as it sounds, without attempting to identify the specific Latin term. Option C. Transcribe the phrase as res ipsa loquitur, and after the deposition, consult a legal dictionary to confirm its meaning and spelling for the final transcript. Option D. Omit the phrase from the transcript, assuming it is jargon not essential to the record. The correct answer is C. Transcribe the phrase as res ipsa loquitur, and after the deposition, consult a legal dictionary to confirm its meaning and spelling for the final transcript. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge for a registered professional reporter, RPR, due to the need to accurately transcribe and understand legal terminology, specifically Latin phrases, within the context of a deposition. Misinterpreting or failing to correctly identify these terms can lead to an inaccurate official record, potentially impacting legal proceedings. The RPR must possess a strong command of legal vocabulary and the ability to apply it in real-time transcription. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves recognizing the Latin phrase res ipsa loquitur and understanding its meaning as the thing speaks for itself. This phrase is a legal doctrine that allows negligence to be inferred from the circumstances of an accident. An RPR's duty is to accurately record the proceedings, and this includes correctly identifying and transcribing such established legal terms. Proper transcription ensures the integrity of the record, which is paramount for legal accuracy and admissibility. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to transcribe the phrase phonetically without recognizing its legal significance or attempting to verify its meaning. This fails to meet the RPR's professional obligation to produce an accurate and meaningful record. It could lead to confusion or misinterpretation by parties reviewing the transcript. Another incorrect approach would be to omit the phrase entirely, assuming it is extraneous or not important. This is a direct failure to record the proceedings accurately and completely, violating the RPR's core responsibility. A third incorrect approach would be to misinterpret the phrase as a different, unrelated Latin term or a common English phrase. This demonstrates a lack of necessary legal vocabulary and can introduce factual errors into the official record, undermining its reliability. Professional reasoning. When encountering unfamiliar or specialized terminology, a professional RPR should prioritize accuracy and clarity. This involves 1. Attempting to identify the term based on context and prior knowledge. 2. If uncertain, making a best effort to transcribe it accurately phonetically. 3. Immediately following the proceeding, consulting reliable legal dictionaries or glossaries to confirm the meaning and correct spelling. And 4, if necessary and permissible by local rules or agreement, seeking clarification from counsel during a break. The ultimate goal is to produce a transcript that is a faithful and complete representation of the spoken word, with accurate identification of all legally significant terms. Question 20. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a registered professional reporter has discovered a close personal relationship with a key witness scheduled to testify in a high-profile trial they are assigned to cover. The reporter is concerned about maintaining absolute impartiality and the integrity of the verbatim record. Which course of action best adheres to the ethical and regulatory framework for registered professional reporters? Option A. Immediately inform the presiding judge of the personal relationship and request guidance on whether to recuse themselves from the proceedings, or if other measures can be taken to ensure impartiality. Option B. Discreetly attempt to gather information about the witness's testimony beforehand to better anticipate and accurately transcribe their statements, thereby mitigating any perceived bias. Option C. Discuss the situation with the witness to gauge their comfort level with the reporter's continued involvement and proceed based on the witness's feedback. Option D. Continue reporting the proceedings as usual, confident in their ability to remain objective and unbiased, and address any potential concerns only if they arise during the trial. The correct answer is A. Immediately inform the presiding judge of the personal relationship and request guidance on whether to recuse themselves from the proceedings, or if other measures can be taken to ensure impartiality. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the court reporter, as a registered professional reporter (RPR), is privy to sensitive information and is expected to maintain strict impartiality and accuracy. The conflict arises from a personal relationship that could be perceived as compromising their neutrality, potentially impacting the integrity of the record and the trust placed in the RPR by the court, attorneys, and parties involved. The RPR's duty is to ensure the verbatim record is free from bias or external influence. The correct approach, which involves disclosing the relationship to the court and seeking guidance on recusal or appropriate measures, represents best professional practice because it upholds the core ethical principles of impartiality, integrity, and transparency, mandated by the RPR certification and relevant professional standards. This proactive disclosure allows the court to make an informed decision, safeguarding the judicial process. It aligns with the RPR's obligation to avoid conflicts of interest and to maintain public confidence in the accuracy and fairness of court reporting. An incorrect approach that involves continuing to report without disclosure would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This breaches the RPR's duty of impartiality, as the personal relationship could unconsciously or consciously influence the transcription or reporting process. It also violates the principle of transparency, as parties are unaware of a potential bias. Such an action could lead to challenges regarding the validity of the record, disciplinary action from certifying bodies, and damage to the RPR's professional reputation. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to manage the conflict internally without informing the court, is also professionally unacceptable. While the RPR might believe they can remain impartial, the appearance of impropriety is sufficient to undermine trust. The RPR's role is not to self-assess and unilaterally decide on the impact of a conflict. Rather, It is to bring potential conflicts to the attention of the appropriate authority for a ruling. This failure to seek external guidance demonstrates a lack of understanding of the gravity of maintaining an unbiased record. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear, step-by-step evaluation. 1. Identify the potential conflict of interest. 2. Assess the nature and severity of the conflict and its potential impact on the impartiality and accuracy of the reporting. 3. Consult the relevant professional code of conduct and ethical guidelines for RPRs. 4. If a conflict exists or appears to exist, immediately disclose the situation to the presiding judge or relevant judicial authority. 5. Follow the instructions provided by the court regarding recusal or other necessary actions. 6. Document all communications and decisions related to the conflict.